Hi, I'm Ruthie, owner of Defy the Status Quo, and this is the Defiant Business Podcast, your daily 10-minute shot, at least Monday through Friday, of business knowledge. You don't have a lot of time, and I'm not going to waste it, so let's get to it. Today, we're going to talk about trying consistency instead of quitting. I really like that title, by the way, even though one starts with a C and one starts with a Q. It alliterates, and I think that's kind of cool. So trying consistency instead of quitting. So why do I even have to bring this up to a group of entrepreneurs? But we all do it. We're all susceptible to it and we might not even realize it. And I'm sure by the end of this 10-minute segment, you're going to agree with me that you've done it at least once. You've done it at least once. If you haven't, reply to me, send me, social media, whatever, and let me know. Last night, my family and we were watching an episode of America's Got Talent. And we watched a voice noise mimicker guy get to the next round. He got four yeses. Which was pretty cool. And it's a dream he had been working toward his entire life, being successful as a noise maker. Um, the big thing I took away from his story was that he was 60 years old. And I commented to my husband and I said, honey, isn't that amazing? How many people would have quit by now? I mean, pretty much everyone else, but 60 years old. And he finally took, you know, or he finally got that big break. And you have to think, like, he would seem like an overnight success, but his story tells you that that is not the case. He didn't wake up a few weeks ago and start doing it. He had been working as a DJ. He had had a lot of jobs that were related to what it was that he did. And he had been working towards his dream of being able to do it full time, to have his own show. So he was the opposite of an overnight success. It's like when you plant a seed in the ground and the dirt's over it and you can't see what's going on. And for us on the surface, finally after a few weeks or whatever, we see something break through the surface and we see the leaves. But that doesn't mean that that little seed wasn't working so hard the whole time. There's so much there that happens that you don't see. So so winning the lottery, that's like a big break overnight. You weren't even trying, but almost everything else is just that. Like there's the ground, right? And the seed is working. The seed is working underneath here, creating the root system and doing all of the things it needs to do to succeed. And that is the case for a lot of our business efforts. His name was Greg Morton, by the way, 60 years old. Amazing that he was, he stuck with it. Like that was his dream and he didn't quit. So a lot of the business things that we try, we quit, right? Um, and this, runs the gamut of things. It runs the spectrum of things that we try. Um, it's easier to get results somewhere else is typically a reason why we'll quit doing it one way and doing it another way. And you only have so much time. So I get it. You can't spend time doing everything. You have to determine what's going to give you the best ROI. But the question is that I have for you is if you are quitting, who else is quitting? If you're quitting, the majority of everyone else is quitting too. I mean, that's it. Like the majority of everyone else is quitting too. Taking it to something specific about my own business or related to my own business, blogging is something I see a lot of companies start and then they quit. After, a few weeks, after a few months, they quit. And you can tell because you can go on a company blog, right? And you go, oh, look, they've got a blog. Let me go check that out. I've got a tax related question, or I've got, some sort of process related question. Maybe their blog can answer my question, right? So you click on the blog and you see nothing new's been posted for the last 2 years, except a couple of press releases that they wrote. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's a shame. And you move on. You as the consumer, you move on. But as the business who has that blog, how many customer connections, client connections, lead connections have you lost because of that lackluster blog that you haven't updated in years or months, right? How are you supposed to get good if you quit? So that's the thing is people say, oh yeah, our company, we started a blog, but it just wasn't giving us a good return on investment. Well, I hate to break it to you, but blogging is definitely one of those. Here's the dirt, and you can't see everything that's happening underneath because the seed isn't here doing all of its work. Blogging is a long-term commitment. If you're not going to commit to writing for, and it depends on how often you write too. If you're only going to write once a month, if you're only going to post once a month, I would say your term of testing should be at least a year and a half, but better 2 years, because you're only putting out one blog post per month. If you're going to post every week, then I'd say you could give your testing phase a year. But blogging is one of those things that you just have to consistently do. And that's it. You have to consistently do it. You have to try consistency instead of quitting. You can quit after a few months, but you weren't going to get serious results in the first few months, at least not the kind you can see. But you're building your search engine optimized footprint through your blog, but that takes time to do. It's easier in some topics than others to see success faster, but you still have to do it consistently for quite some time to build your audience. So you have to decide, right? You have to decide, is this really a poor use of your time? Or would commitment and consistency turn this into a success? So you have to think about the business struggles that you've had. Looking for me personally, I got my start on Upwork, and there were some stumbles and some trips and some falls. I talk about a lot of them in my book, which I'm writing right now. One that immediately comes to mind is the time I got scammed. I was looking for a job to apply to, and there was a guy on Upwork. He said that he was writing a military, like an adventure action book. And I was like, cool, I've got military experience. I could totally edit this and make it better. No problem. And so he wanted me to edit 500 words as a test project, right? And I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. And so he gave me the piece that he wanted me to edit, and I did. I did a really good job with that. I fixed his tone. I fixed some things that like we wouldn't say as military people, army people, and straightened it up. And I sent it back, and I eagerly awaited his response. But what ended up happening was I didn't get a response at all. Turns out that is a very common way for client scammers on Upwork to get free work done. So he probably doled out 500 word segments to almost every single desperate writer who responded. Now, that's obviously not going to turn out a good book or anything, but he's a scammer and he's trying to get free work. So what does he care? So I could have easily quit at that point. I could have decided that everybody was like that. All clients were like that. Upwork was like that. Everywhere online you'd find clients was like that. And the only way that you could succeed as a freelance writer was by knowing people and working in industries that you knew. And that wasn't the way that I was going about it. Instead, I took it as a learning experience and I moved on. So I decided that consistency and commitment would turn it into a success. I didn't quit. And that is what I'm telling you this morning. So I need you to ask yourself the next time you're thinking about social media, you're thinking about blogging, you're thinking about business opportunities or business endeavors, consider that if you are thinking about quitting or you've decided it's too hard, the vast majority of people have decided that too, which means that there is less competition. When they say there's less competition at the top, it's not because the top is such a great place to be necessarily. It's because you had to hike to get up there, right? You had to hike to get up there, and so many people quit and turned around. So if you don't, then you make it to the top, but it can be grueling and it can be tough. So please, the next time you run into something and you're thinking, oh no, ask yourself, is this a poor use of your time, or would consistency and commitment turn it into a success? All right, so that's what I'm leaving you with today. This is Ruthie Bowles, owner of Defy the Status Quo, and this has been an episode of the Defiant Business Podcast. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time.